Hey everybody, this is Andy from Tennis Euphoria, and today I'm bringing you my review of the Wilson Ultra Pro V3. So I'm pretty sure that I won't need to tell most viewers of this video that this is a very different racket to the others in the Ultra line. Those 100 square inch power beasts are not this racket. This racket is a 97 square inch 1820 thin beam control orientated racket, and it is the new version of the Wilson Ultra Tour, this racket. And I guess the big question is there any difference? Is it just a new paint job? Is it still a really interesting and good racket for advanced players looking for great control and almost sort of old school, traditional, lovely feel? So on sort of basic first inspection, they look to be exactly the same to me. Let's have a quick look at the specs. Both are listed online as being 97 square inches, 18 by 20 dense string patterns, 31.5 centimeter balance points, 305 grams unstrung weight with a thin 21 millimeter beam. And I've been really looking forward to this review because, as some of you who subscribe to this channel know, I grew up as a junior playing with an 1820 heavy head Radical Tour. That was in the 90s, so I really like that kind of classic feel, like heavier rackets. But I returned to tennis at age 37 after a 20-year break. Felt at the time my game needed a bit of extra help, bit of extra pop. I'd given up on an 1820 and I went to the Technifibre XTC 305, which has served me really well for kind of 2 years. My game mechanics are better again now. Two-handed backhand is bedded in, the old one-handed backhand has gone, and I value control and touch more than power, so I have been looking for something. So taking it out for first casual hits, certainly I think from that it was the same racket. So it has the lovely sort of plush feel, very kind of traditional feel, almost sort of simply beautiful, just lovely on contact. As you'll all probably know, it's probably a little bit light in stock form. Nevertheless, I strung it up with Solinco Tour Bite and just thought I'd see how it played in stock. And certainly that was confirmed to me that it does need a little bit of help to be fantastic. But nevertheless, putting those customization considerations to one side, I could already tell that I would enjoy the feel, I would enjoy the sort of contact, and that it was very similar to the Ultra Tour as I remembered it. So second hit, I brought out the Ultra Tours as well, and then that became really interesting. So I have two Ultra Tours, one of which I bought from new at that time, and I picked up another that is second hand, probably about a year ago, and immediately I could tell a difference between the Ultra Pro V3 and my two Ultra Tours, and that is in stiffness. The Ultra Pro V3 for me just feels a few more points stiff. So the listing sort of stiffness rating, or RA, for the Ultra Tour is 63, and I feel that's spot on. I always feel that they are sort of a bit buttery. Probably 62, 63 feels about right. The Ultra Pro V3, however, if I was a guessing man, I would say that would be more like a sort of 65 RA, and it does change the feel a little bit. I also found that I needed to get that customization because it just needed that little bit of help, mainly around plow through and also stability at net. So I'd find that put away points often just lacked just that little bit of punch that I needed. So I set about customizing, restrung with a hybrid setup, and also added to all of the rackets just 5 grams initially, spread across 10 and 2. So where was I at with regards to customization? So on the Ultra Pro, I was sort of running with Solinco Tour Bite in the mains, and in the crosses I was sort of playing around with things like Solinco Vanquish, which I thought worked really well. In it right now I have Head Hawk Touch, and both 52 pounds in the mains and the crosses, and that was working really well. Hopefully you can see this, but just as a kind of temporary fix, I've just added 5 grams of tungsten up at 10 and 2. If I settle on where I'm going to put the weight, then I'll take off the bumper caps and probably spread the lead underneath that. But I'm starting to think that the long-term fix will actually be some weight at 3 and 9 and a little bit at 12 as well. But certainly what I can say, that even with just that 5 grams of weight, it is improving the racket. There's a little bit more plow, still probably needs a little bit more stability. Hence the sort of 3 and 9 plan moving forward. On the Ultra Tours, I've been doing basically the same. I've customized with the same weight, playing around with hybrids, and I've also been playing around with getting some full beds of poly in there, and that's proving quite interesting too. So what I have then is a really good basis to compare these rackets, and what I can tell you moving on to sort of next hits is that both versions I just love. I don't think I've got the customization quite right yet. I think that 3 and 9 and 12 weight will be what I end up with. It's so head light in stock that I think you can add weight without necessarily needing to counterbalance, but certainly if I want to up the weight overall, a leather grip would also be great, and then you'd be taking it to that sort of pro stock H19 territory. You'd get a bit of a Gael Monfils experience. Gael Monfils alongside Andre Agassi is my favourite player of all time. Andy Murray as well, so that probably says something about how I want to play my game, but nevertheless loving both of the rackets. And why? Well, in many respects they just give you what I sort of describe to be that sort of old-fashioned feel that you'd get from mainly sort of great head rackets through the 90s. So they're simply beautiful in as much as they are just lovely on impact, offer great control, they're comfortable, and from the baseline, certainly when you beef it up a little bit, you are getting good spin potential, you are getting great control, and with that bit of beef you're getting better plow through too. So it stands up to the modern game, but then also you can play really nice at the net and bring some nice little touch drop shots in. You just really feel connected to your play, and the racket starts to feel like an extension to your arm, or at least it does to me. And the more that I was playing with it, I played with it quite a lot without being able to take footage. And what I can tell you is that I was just loving the racket, and I was able to just sort of play how I wanted to play. It's right up there for me alongside the TF40 as my racket of choice. However, here's the fly in the ointment. So more and more I was gearing towards picking up my 2 Ultra Tours. Didn't really know why, but I just noticed that I felt a bit more confident with them, and I felt that I was playing a little bit better. So it led me to sort of dive into the specs a little bit more to see if there was a difference. I've obviously mentioned that I felt that the Ultra Pro was a little stiffer than the Ultra Tour, and certainly 63 RA is sort of perfect for me. And on inspection I did notice that there is a difference, or so it seems. The Ultra Pro V.2, at least the version that I have, is that bit heavier, 5 grams heavier. Now I've been so taken by the Ultra Tour that I've got hold of a third Ultra Tour, and they are all very similar in specs. I'll put them up for you now. And then when I compare that to my Ultra Pro, there is that 5 grams difference. Balance points are broadly the same. So I think that it is just maybe quality control with my one version of the Ultra Pro, or possibly there is a subtle difference that makes it that little bit heavier. Can't quite pinpoint where it's heavier, but I still love it. I just play a bit better with the Ultra Tours, but I do believe they are the same rackets. And in that, I suppose, lies my small sort of disappointment. I mean, my take on it is that Wilson know it's a good racket, they don't want to discontinue it, so they've just kind of continued to chuck it into the Ultra line, and it just doesn't seem to be readily available in retailers, so it's probably not going to hit the market in a mass way. That might represent, I guess, where the market is at now, but that's quite a shame. It means that certainly if I wanted to commit to the Ultra Pro V.2, I'd have to spend big money on buying it directly from Wilson, so I'm more likely to go down the Ultra Tour route. I left not really being 100% sure if they are exactly the same. I can't 100% commit that the Ultra Pro is perfectly the same as the Ultra Tour, although I strongly suspect that it is exactly the same mold, same sort of specifications, just maybe the Ultra Pro that I got, the quality control was maybe a little bit out. But I guess to counteract that, we all know that graphite breaks down over time. Also, of course, the Ultra Pro V.2 that I have is brand new. It's only been in my Racket stringer twice. The Ultra Tours are older. They've been in the stringing machine a few times. I'm sure that sort of flexed them up a little bit, bedded them in a little bit. So no competitions around, no competitive play around, so don't feel that pressure to commit. And of course, I'm reviewing rackets all the time. But what I can tell you is that the Wilson Ultra Tour / Pro and the Technofiber TF40 305, it will be between those two that are my rackets of choice. Summing up then, if you're after something with great feel, great control, traditional sort of nostalgic feel to it, you've got to check out the Wilson Ultra Pro. Might be worth, from a sort of shopper's perspective though, looking for an Ultra Tour, might pick one up a bit cheaper. Certainly a racket that's always been described as a great platform stick, and I'd agree with that in stock form. It just lacks a little bit, but it isn't difficult to make it really good, and certainly you don't really need to know what you're doing too much to make it really good. A little bit of leather grip and you've got a great racket in your hands. Next up for me is a really interesting racket. I'm having a look at the Babolat Pure Aero VS, and I had the previous version of that, as you'll probably know, customized, which I liked. Have to say, it looks much more like the Pure Drive VS, so looking forward to getting this on court and seeing what that's like. If you want to see that, subscribe to the channel. There will be more fitness videos for you around tennis, as I'll bring my skills and my day job as a PT and strength and conditioning coach to the table there. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. Give this a like if it was helpful. I would really appreciate that. Subscribe if you want to check out the Aero VS. Probably that will go up next week, and see you soon.